Hello, I'm Brenda Powell. Here's my audience. Hello. Good morning. My name is Brenda Powell, and I work for the University of Louisville. Imagine, if you will, that you grew up below the poverty level in the United States. Some of you may have experienced this, but for those of you who didn't, imagine for a moment you're a high school senior who has lived their whole life below the poverty line in a poverty-stricken neighborhood and has had to deal with some real adversity in life. Neither of your parents went to college, and so they both have minimum wage jobs, maybe more than one, which is exactly why you live under the poverty line. You really want to pull yourself up, maybe your family too, just up and out from below the poverty line. So you want to go to college to get a bachelor's degree to greatly improve your potential for income. The problem is that the odds are you have no idea what kind of challenges you're about to face in this new world of college. Challenges you can't even imagine are waiting for you right around the corner. And they mostly don't have a lot to do with academics. The fact is that only about 10% of students like you will actually graduate in 6 years' time without any additional assistance. So today you will learn the top 5 challenges that face low-income and first-generation college students. So first of all, what is a low-income first-generation college student? A first-generation college student is someone whose parents did not graduate from college before they turned 18, before the child turned 18. So those kids are considered the first generation in their family to go to college. And then low-income is defined by federal guidelines as 1.5 times the poverty level. So some of these kids are just out of the poverty level, but they're eligible for Pell Grant, which is federal aid. And then where do these kids come from? Like, what is the racial disparity? What is the racial breakdown? About 25% of Asian and white students are first generation low income. About 41% of black students are first generation and low income. And 61% of Latino students are first generation low income. So one of the first challenges they face is academic, and it is a lack of college readiness. So now go back to imagining that you're this high school senior that went to school in his or her poverty-stricken neighborhood. And maybe you did very well at this school. Maybe you worked very hard. Maybe you have a really high GPA. But the truth is that your education at this poverty-stricken high school is most likely not the same as the education of your middle class or affluent counterparts, even if they attended a public high school. Many of these high schools in poverty-stricken areas are low performing. They are underfunded, so they do not have the money to attract highly qualified teachers. They are not prepared with additional resources to prepare kids for college. They're just not as challenging. The next big, so that makes you not ready for college, even if you've done really well at this high school. The next big challenge is family responsibilities. Many kids who are low income and first generation are still very involved with their families. They have to care for younger siblings very often. They sometimes have to care for older relatives like grandparents, which uses a lot of their time. And very often the family, because they have no experience with college, really don't understand how much time is required to be successful in college. And they will make demands on these students like to care for family members that really endanger their success in college, and they don't even understand it that way. And some parents or family members may really want their child to go to college, but they don't really understand all the ins and outs of it, and they might even view college as something really only for the wealthy, and that their child is now trying to better themselves and make themselves better than their parents, and they might see that as arrogant or offensive, and then they become actually a hindrance to the child's success and not helpful at all. Another factor these kids face, another challenge, is that most of them have to work. Many of them work between 20 and 40 hours a week. they're not only supporting themselves, but they're supporting other family members because of the low income. And this does not leave adequate time for homework, for studying, or for being involved at the university, which is a huge factor of success, is how involved you are on the campus, how involved you are with organizations on campus. If you're working 40 hours a week, you don't have time for that. And another factor is they don't understand how to navigate the system. They have no idea how to navigate the financial aid system, the housing system, where to go when inevitably they run into problems, who to talk to. No idea how to talk to a professor if they have a problem, or any other professional at the university. They're intimidated by their level of education and just can't even go there at all. They do not seek help when they really need it, because they just don't even have a roadmap of how to begin. And then finally, one of the biggest issues with first generation low income students is something called imposter syndrome. It's a feeling that they don't belong. It's a feeling that they're not worthy, they're undeserving of, having a college degree. No one in their family's ever done it. They just don't feel like they can do it deep down in their brains. They also don't want to get to a place where they don't fit in anymore with their family. They don't want to rise above their family so much that they become an outsider. They feel uncomfortable in the college atmosphere. Very often they're in remedial classes, which also lowers your confidence, and will, especially in the first years, if they're in a lot of remedial classes, they will create their social groups with other kids in remedial classes, and then they're all in that same demographic, and a lot of these issues just are perpetuated over and over again. And these kids really need to get out and surround themselves with people who understand how to navigate the system and understand that you have to be more involved and step outside of that mindset of imposter syndrome. Another issue related to imposter syndrome that they encounter is as they get very close to graduation, there's just this intense pressure of, what am I going to do? Okay, now I've completed this huge goal that no one in my family had ever done before. Now the pressure to be successful is even greater on that student. And so sometimes, even without knowing it, they will engage in self-defeating behaviors so that they never actually get to graduation. So, in that last year, it's also really important that these kids are connected with, good positive role models so that they can avoid some of these self-defeating behaviors and actually reach their goal. So now you've learned a few of the challenges that face low-income first-generation college students: lack of college readiness, increased family responsibilities, they have to be employed, they don't really know how to navigate the systems, and then very often they suffer from imposter syndrome. So some of the solutions for these kids are, because low-income and particularly first-generation students are getting a lot more attention these days, there are integration programs in high school to help them be much more ready for college. And there's also retention programs once you get to college that help you navigate the system, help you understand how to talk to professors, where to go for tutoring, where to go if you get sick, all that stuff. So there's a lot more of that going on that's helpful. They have additional scholarship opportunities. They can do federal work study as opposed to working outside the university. They can work right there where they live and where they go to school, and in places that will allow them to study while on the job, and that is a great benefit for them. And one other possible solution is to begin their college career at a community college. So in that way they can have less issues with transition and also save some money in that first year or two of college. So what do you think? Are there any other solutions you can think of that may help with some of these issues? No? Nothing you can think of? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Next time you run across a low-income first-generation student, give them a pat on the back, because they are facing some really big challenges. And if they're still in college, they're being successful at it, and they deserve that pat on the back. Thank you very much.